Good morning. I'm Clarice Summersall. I am one of the senior administrators here at Montgomery College, and I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Trustees room in the Central Services building of Montgomery College. Many of you probably haven't been here before, so consider yourselves fortunate to be here. This is the nerve center of the institution. You're in the space where the board members meet. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Pollard, faculty and staff at Montgomery College, I'd like to welcome you to another presentation made by our Accenture partners. The CEO's vision of the future, jobs, 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 could not be more relevant. And Dr. Pollard prides herself on saying that she wants Montgomery College to be the most relevant community college in the nation. At the fall opening meeting, Dr. Pollard shared the mission statement, which reads in part, "We empower our students to change their lives, and we enrich the life of our community." Our partnership with Accenture provides a wonderful opportunity for you, our students, to empower yourselves to make the appropriate choices in your life. You're going to be competing with students from Bethesda and Bermuda, from Germantown and Ghana. We live in a global economy where you're going to be competing with people from all over the world, and it's important for you to be globally aware and globally competitive. We are enriching the life of our Montgomery College community by launching the lecture series during this academic year. Since the fall, we have been focusing our attention on the business students. To date, Business 101 students on each campus have been exposed to the brilliance of our presenters from Accenture. And Fiona Grant and Ryan LaSalle were the first presenters that we had back in September. So they were enthralled with our students, with the interest shown by our students, and they volunteered to come back and present again to another campus. We are excited about embarking on this partnership with Accenture as part of its Skills to Succeed initiative, which plans to equip 250,000 people around the world by 2015 with the skills to get a job or to build a business. With two of their senior executives giving of their time and energy to be with us today, what a tremendous opportunity for you, our students, to have a real-world glimpse into the world of work through the lens of professionals who operate on the world stage. Many thanks to the Montgomery College planning team, the team that has worked so wonderfully with the planners from Accenture. And now I would like Professor Fraser to come forward, and she will formally introduce our two speakers.
Thank you,
Professor
Dr.
Fraser.
Summersall.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to thank, before I introduce our speakers, excuse my voice, allergies have taken over. But I would like to thank Dr. Summersall and Diane Woods, I don't think she's in the room, for all the work that they've done, and from everyone from Accenture for all the work that they've done. But we really couldn't do this without our wonderful speakers. And they're willing to give us their time and their energy out of their very productive days to speak to us, and we appreciate that. So first, let me introduce Fiona Grant. And she is, you'll have to excuse my reading this, she's the HR Director for Global Platforms and Talent Management in the Technology Growth Platform. She focuses on what they call deep technology specialists in areas like SAP and Oracle, in addition to focusing on emerging markets. And she's worked in a variety of capacities at Accenture, including consulting, recruitment, and human resources, and she's been in the human resources area for 14 years now. She's worked in DC, London, and Paris. And I don't know about you guys, but I want to learn about getting that job. She's interested in all aspects of career management, diversity, and leadership training. And she also sits on the Accenture Diversity Advisory Forum representing the growth technology platform. So if we could applaud for Ms. Grant. And our second speaker, Ryan LaSalle, joined the Technology Labs, Accenture's cross-industry research and development organization, in 1997. He's worked with customers in a variety of industries, including pharmaceuticals, financial services, and media and entertainment, to find emerging technology solutions for their business clients. Mr. LaSalle led technology development on a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. He holds patents in human resource management, knowledge discovery, and establishing trust between online entities, which is huge these days. As a lead for Accenture's Cyber Lab, Mr. LaSalle's current role focuses on research that brings together the areas of analytics, knowledge discovery, and cybersecurity/information assurance. He is a graduate of Princeton with a BS in electrical engineering. Please welcome. So I hope that you'll take full advantage of their time and ask questions, listen, ask questions, and this is a very wonderful opportunity we have. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to try to keep this a little interactive too, so we've got some time where we're going to ask you to tell us and help us along in the presentation, so it's not just us talking to you guys. I also wanted to point out, we brought another one of our consultants with us, Richard Hill, who joined us last year. And as we get into kind of what it is we do as an organization and how this job market evolves, I'm going to ask Richard to tell you guys a little bit about what he does too. So you get a flavor not just of how the business runs, but the work we actually do and what actually gets built every day. Mm-hmm. So I think the notion today is that we're going to spend some time talking about the overall landscape of where we see the future going, what the career landscape looks like, and how the U.S. Jobs economy might shift over time. We're also going to talk more about how you find kind of where your niche is. What are the things that are going to help you be successful and going to drive your careers too. So and we'll keep it, like I said, pretty open and pretty flexible, and we'll talk about some of the things that we're trying to do as a company to help make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want to flick to the next slide, Richard? Okay. So we're going to start out by having a little shout-out activity. So both Ryan and I are pretty informal people, and the thing that makes most sense to do is to think about as you were projecting forwards and your lives. So I said, heard you mention that you're looking to qualify as a CPA. So you've already got a fairly specific vision of what you're after. Some of you may be, I heard you say that you're in your first semesters and stuff, and mix of obviously experience. So could I see a show of hands for who's got a kind of a fairly concrete-ish idea of what you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say? Ish? Okay. So a few hands. So for those of you that put your hands up, would you mind shouting out, what you're thinking of doing?
Transferring to another institution and getting a master's degree after that. Getting
a master's? Have you narrowed it down to a particular subject?
Probably international business.
Okay. There was another hand.
I want to get an MBA and go into finance.
Okay, so finance. And then we had our CPA and...
Well, I'd like to go into business.
Ryan is being extremely... yeah, very distracting. I have had problems with him previously in our working career together, so this is not altogether a surprise. Okay, so a little bit of a getting into business. So when you think about, do all of you have some kind of an idea of someone that you know personally who is successful? And give us a few shout-outs about what you see in them, the qualities that have helped them be successful in whatever field they're in. Doesn't matter whether it's business related or anything. What's helped that person get where they are? Drive, okay. What else? Content? Confidence. Yep. What else?
Willingness to work 60 hours a week.
Willingness to work 60 hours a week, okay.
Sacrifice? That's sacrifice? Okay.
Yeah, you could call that work ethic, you could call that lunacy. What else? Define some of the people that you think about. Leadership. So maybe they're in some kind of leadership capacity, okay. There are obviously different ways to succeed in the world. You can have you can be an individual contributor, be an expert in something, but you can also obviously be in some kind of leadership capacity. You can be the leader of a function, you can be the leader of a team. So there are different ways to be a leader. What else?
How about knowledgeable?
Knowledgeable in something, exactly. Knowledgeable about something. Luck, absolutely. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of luck in life. Yep.
This can go with sacrifice, but flexibility.
Sure.
Being able to change ways.
Change your ways, and say a little bit more about that.
Matter of change, like if you see that you need to change direction, you do it right away into a positive way.
Okay.
Instead of just kind of trying to work at that problem.
Okay.
You know, there's actually a business school article, an HBR article about a year and a half ago that said that most startups change their business model 13 times before they find success. And I mean, yeah, so when you've got an idea, flexibility is definitely key to making something out of it.
Something that goes along with that is awareness, because if you're not really aware of change, you know.
Aware of change around you.
Aware in general.
Aware in general. So I love that point in particular, and you had a point also?
I was going to say, just being personable, being able to work with and talk to people, motivate people, and just be a good person.
If you are especially if you're in a business that involves working with people. Now, I am in HR, and I'll give you a top tip here. If you ever want a job in HR, the number one thing not to say at interview, as to ask why you want to move into HR, is to say, because I like people. Because one would hope that, you know, as a human being, you like some people, and being in HR involves some very definitive skills that you need to have. One of those might be helping to manage people, but liking people hopefully is not a differentiator. It's not a job differentiator. What is HR? Excellent question. Human resources, or as I prefer to call it, humorless resources.
Turns out sometimes HR has a disdain for people, so it's okay.
Exactly. Humorless resources. So it encompasses the span of roles, everything from, you know, recruiting people into an organization through to firing them, if you take the very life cycle view. In between there's all kinds of development that goes on. So you might be a training specialist, you might be someone who specializes in the legal side of employment relations. I focus on leadership development and inclusion and diversity. So I'm also the senior executive sponsor for our US LGBT network. Prize, please, for someone that can correctly identify the LGBT initials. Hands?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender.
Very good. Okay. So we have a very strong inclusion and diversity reputation at Accenture, and that's something that I'm very proud of in terms of my legacy at Accenture. That's probably the thing that I'm proudest of. So HR is a very wide thing, and I think that's something that we'd like to convey to you all today, is that a lot of professions are very, very broad in terms of the different things that you can end up doing, even if you all start out in some kind of standard training, like accounting. You know, you have to do your standard training, but then what kind of an accountant you become can vary immensely. So let's flick up the next slide. Richard, sorry, I'm waving over here.
He's thinking about his career. He's like, where am I going?
And if you want to do we're not sure how many clicks it's going to take to bring the build up here, but here are some of the things that you guys mentioned. There's Flexor, yep. Decisive, respectful. I question the need for that one, but organised, creative, articulate, passionate. So what it takes to actually be successful in whatever walk of life you end up in. Obviously, each person brings a very different flavour to their employer. Ryan and I are very different. I have managed to succeed at Accenture despite not being a typical Accenture clone. So when I started at, is this on video? Oh yes.
Yeah,
when I
excellent.
started,
The HR lead is talking about, yeah.
When I started at Accenture, there was a, at that time we were part of Arthur Andersen, which was an accounting firm, and the reputation was that we were very staid. We always wore blue suits, which in fact I am. I'm not one here today.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, good job
Way
on
to break
the
that mold.
Navy suit. But we also we had a nickname which was androids, because the thought was that we just recruited engineers and everyone was kind of had the same way of thinking and the same way of approaching problems. And so I think the nice thing that I've seen over the 23 years that I've now been with Accenture is that we have really broadened that, and I see many more creative types. I see much more awareness that we have, there are some people that are leaders, there are some people that are individual experts, and that you don't have to be a team expert in managing people to still be a very useful person in a different expertise. So,
but I'd say a lot of these characteristics are characteristics that are of people who are successful in our company, regardless of where they draw from in terms of what they're really good at. Most of our projects, as a consulting company, we're very project driven. So we help a client solve a problem. We come in, we mobilize a team around that problem with different skills and draw together kind of a composite group of people. And in order to do that, you've got to be a team player. Our clients are expecting things to be done on time and on budget, so you've got to be driven and motivated to get things done. We're constantly, as your career evolves, you're constantly picking up new skills, either because you're trying to become an expert or because you're trying to grow a business, and either way, you're learning as you go. So a lot of these same characteristics are very true whether or not you got your own business or whether or not you're trying to be successful in any large or small organization.
Mm-hmm. So I think what I liked most about your point there around the awareness is that you cannot be successful. Let me just restate that. It's very hard to be successful if you are not aware of what your own strengths are. And if I can leave you with one thing today, it would be that having an awareness of your own strengths and building that awareness as you go through life by listening to what people tell you and is one of the major keys to success. And that could be a negative piece of feedback, which you, register, all right, this is probably not one of my strengths. Or it could be a positive piece of feedback, and that's when someone says to you out of the blue, oh wow, that was a really cool presentation, piece of analysis, and they single you out for that, and you think, that was really easy, or that came really naturally to me. But that other person sees that you have a differentiated way of doing that and calls you out for it. And that is a big clue, this is something that I should hang on to. And it may be something really simple, like I ended up getting asked to stay on my first project after some people were rolled off. It was nothing to do with my coding skills at the time, which, let me say, as a history major, they were pretty crappy, my coding skills. But it was because I could connect with other people, and I was the only person that could get on with this very brainiac PhD physicist. And they said, Fiona, you stay on the project. So that kind of from an early point in my career, I thought, okay, this is something for me to hang on to, and it's probably one of the reasons I've ended up in HR.
And that, likewise, so I'll tell you that it goes both ways. So on a large complex delivery project, I found that I can do them, but I don't enjoy focusing on the same thing for a year. It's really hard for me. It's an unnatural act for me to sit down and grind something out for 12 months. And I found that the flip side of that is also true. I'm really at my best in short areas of focus. For like a 12-week solving a problem, let's come and figure out how to get through this really hard, knotty issue. Let's design it, let's figure out how it's going to work, and let's prototype it to see if it is going to work, and then I got to get out of there. And that turns out that in most of Accenture, they really like that long view. But in the part that I found a home in, it's all about that constant churning and retooling, and it plays right to the things I'm good at. So that's been part of how I've managed my career as well, in terms of trying to figure out where I should focus and where I should stay.
Which is probably why Ryan and I like each other. We're both misfits.
And we have ADD, so.
So be aware of your strengths and be taking some clues and tips from people as you go along. And that's, feedback from your family is equally as valid as feedback from your professors here at college. So
just a little bit about how many, coming into this session today, how many have ever heard of Accenture? Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you that a lot of my clients haven't heard of Accenture. So we're one of the largest consulting and systems integration companies in the world. We've got now over 240,000 people globally. When I started in 97, we had about 45,000 people. So that's tremendous growth over the last several years, and it's been almost all done organically, which means we grow and hire our talent to get to this big. We don't buy companies for the most part. We mostly grow. And talk about that global competitive nature, our company in 2002 had about 80 employees in India. Now we have 50,000. We hired them all. We've got about 27,000 people in the U.S. We've got, we're really a global company. We operate as the sun travels around the world. So does our work. So that's how we work. I think what's interesting is that as a company, as a business consulting company and management consulting company and technology consulting company, we write more lines of code and more software than any company that's not Microsoft or Oracle or some big technology company. At the same time, we manage significant business change for our customers. So we help them understand everything from the business need for their business model to change, to the way that change trickles down to the entire organization, from the board all the way down to the manufacturing plant. And we help our customers manage through that process. So very technical, but very people-focused at the same time. And that's, in terms of our global business, we've got 120 countries where we have clients. Our people are on planes a lot. We travel a lot. And, so here's some more fun facts about us. So we've got, I think what's interesting is if you look around in every airport, 1/3 of every person bought their ticket through a system that we built. Almost all your mail that goes to the U.S. Postal Service is processed through something that we help the U.S. Postal Service deliver. And this is kind of interesting. Every 4 hours, something somewhere in the world goes live that we took from concept to delivery for our customers. We operate at a massive scale, but we're made up of people, which is kind of interesting too. So I'm also always fascinated, and I'm sure Richard is one of the things we keep talking about since he joined. We run this company based on a personal network, and we find the experts to solve a problem. We reach out and help each other collaboratively. It's not like a giant machine. It actually is all about people who are helping each other get things done and leverage the learnings from one system to another, so that people are constantly sharing and collaborating and informing each other.
So in terms of the kind of people we're looking for, we hire both people that have technical degrees and we hire people that have business degrees, and we hire the odd person that has even a liberal arts degree, because we need a little bit of everything to make this whole world go round.
Yeah, I think a lot of the most explosive, we'll talk about some of the industries that are starting to really take off globally, like healthcare. In a lot of those spaces, we're hiring doctors, we're hiring nurses, we're hiring people who help articulate the way the business uses the systems and processes and changes we can deliver. So it's really a composite picture of our talent pool.
Mm-hmm. So just a little bit about some of the other trends that we see in terms of the careers overall. That one of the things is that it used to be perhaps more clear what the boundaries were between different professions, and that you would take qualifications. I mean, CPA is an example of something which does still hold true, that if you want to be an accountant, you have to take that basic CPA training. But increasingly, there are many different ways to kind of get into professions. And so software development is something that, you might think, oh, I don't want to be someone that is in a dungeon learning how to program a computer. That is a very tech, math specific reality. Whereas in fact, some of the newer programming languages are fun, and you don't have to be quite so much in the digits as you used to have been 20 or even 10 years ago. So we see, yeah, come on in. So I guess at this stage, you know, being in college, I would encourage you to think broadly. There are ways to get into some, you know, customer contact and some of the finance areas. You can be someone that has an operational interest, and then realize that actually, you know, finance is something that you're doing more and more of. You might end up building skills in a job that then you end up and go and do some further qualifications around.
Yeah, no company can succeed unless they can bill. So it's something, they got to get paid by somebody somehow, and somebody's got to make sure that that money's coming in and the bills are going out and they're accurate. That's a great basis for trying to understand how a business actually works. And when you get into your own business, or as you move up the ranks, having that kind of that fundamentals background of how the cash flow works in business, whether you're a nonprofit or a large global multinational company, that same principle holds. You gotta pay your people, you gotta balance the books, and having that core set of skills is really fundamentally important.
And being curious and genuinely interested in something is kind of a must when you show up for an interview. So this one, interest in your area of expertise. You know, if you are, I know that lots of people, you know, when they're starting to interview, naturally try a bunch of different things. Just make sure that you have, you know, boned up a little bit so that you sound interested.
At least know what the company does that you're interviewing with, and what the, you know, it's not always clear what the role is about, but at least do a little bit of homework to figure out who the company is you're talking to. We've walked into many situations where you interview somebody and the first question out of their mouth is, "So what do you guys do?" I don't understand, you know. So that's, you know, that interest in your area of expertise. So what do you want to do? It's good to have an opinion on what you think you're going to be passionate about, and you know, if you already know, if you already got a vocation, that's great. If you don't, and you're trying to figure things out, at least kind of have a short list of things you think would be interesting, but also understand kind of who it is you're talking to.
Yeah. So healthcare, I think you will be aware, is one of the areas which is booming. And you know, Ryan was just saying that we've been hiring lots of doctors and nurses at Accenture, and that's absolutely right. That there is a big focus on how we fix the healthcare system, certainly in this country, but an awful lot of interest about how you can use analytics to a patient's advantage to, you know, be able to obviously predict disease progress and trends faster. So the number of jobs that are predicted there is obviously high. There are real needs for more nurses. So if you're sitting here in this room and you're doing business and you're not digging it, consider nursing. There are, again, many ways to be a nurse. That, you know, there are nurses that specialize in specific diseases, and it's really a very analytical and research type of nursing role. And obviously there are those that are more generally focused on a particular age group, demographic. So that's certainly something to consider. And management of health is something that, you know, you guys might be interested in.
And that also brings up that crossover between the skill set and the content of healthcare and the business side of managing a team, managing finances, managing a business, and trying to make sure that you're bringing those two together. A lot of people come up through the nursing side, but some come from the other side too.
Yep, exactly. In terms of, you know, professional and business services, there's a lot of talk of, you know, outsourcing these days. We're going to continue to see needs for people to have sound managerial skills, regardless of what is going on. You always need people to manage people, and there are new businesses obviously starting up, green consulting being one of them, and I guess sustainability more broadly.
I want to take a pause quickly just in terms of, you guys are all in an educational environment right now, and I'm interested in some of the skills we just kind of hit on, nursing in here. So how many people are taking statistics? Okay. How about literature, or something that requires creative writing, or that requires analytical business writing?
Technical writing.
Technical writing?
Uh-huh.
Something that requires writing reports.
All of you have to write reports.
Math. Anything, calculus.
Does it count if we took it? Or
Counts.
Yeah,
If you took it, yeah. I'm interested because I think a couple of things that keep popping up in you know, strong people who are able to communicate their ideas effectively. Again, ends up being a good measure of and predictor of success. This ability to actually write clearly into your audience to help understand what the point is you're trying to make and make yourself be heard in a way that is approachable, in a way that people want to continue to read is an art form. And so my mom's an English teacher, so she would berate me if I didn't emphasize the fact that even though I was an electrical engineer, the thing that's probably most effective in my job is the ability to take a very technical concept and relate it to a business audience. Relate it to somebody who's got 5 minutes to talk, not hours and hours to talk. And your ability to package the things you're thinking and articulate them to somebody else to make them care too is probably the most specific hard skill you need in being successful in business.
And knowing what kind of a communicator you are. So you might be a good oral communicator, you might have good written skills, but more the kind of person that does the detailed report, or you might be someone that is really good at doing the executive summary type piece. Know what your niche is and really hone that skill, because most of us can write in some form, and you may not be the world's best, but again, figure out where your relative strength is and improve that. Because here's a tip, you will never excel in your area of weakness. So if there's something that just does not come very naturally to you, don't force it. Figure out what the things are that you are good at and focus on that and improving them. That's the way that people succeed. You're going to get exponential growth in the areas of your strengths, whatever they may be. So I know your first bosses are always going to say to you, oh, you've not got enough attention to detail, or whatever it is. And you need to be good enough, but don't kill yourself to improve that.
Yeah, but I'll say that there are certain things that people expect attention to detail. So when I see a resume, I don't want to see a lot of typos. Actually, I don't want to see any typos. I don't want to see any typos in a resume. I throw those out because that basic level of using spell check is not something that ties back to a core skill or a core talent. It's something that's just part of representing yourself properly. But then going back to, are you good at the detailed report? Are you good at the executive summary report? That's where the team comes together. We figure out how to put people together who have complementary skills. Because if you can write a detailed analysis of something, and I can sit there and give the high-level big picture, we're going to work really well together. If we're both the detail-oriented people, no one's ever going to understand us.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the notion is, there are some basic building blocks you've got to mitigate, and then from there are these areas that you're going to succeed in all the time because you're going to drive towards it and you're going to have energy. In other areas, they're tough.
One, Richard, because I think we probably hit it. Okay.
All right, so just a little bit on the origin of this program, this notion of the Skills to Succeed program. This is part of the vision of our current chairman, former CEO of Accenture. His name is Bill Green. He's out of Boston. Bill went to Babson College after high school and did 2 years of community college while he was working in construction. His dad was a plumber from South Boston, and while he was working in construction, he happened to meet a couple of guys who were then accountants at Arthur Andersen, and got in the door there and saw what they were doing in terms of the kinds of environments they were working on. Decided that at some point in time he wanted to run his own business too. It wasn't necessarily that he was going to work on a roof all the time. He wanted to figure out what to do, and those mentors he had from the business community encouraged him to keep going through and get his bachelor's degree. He then joined Arthur Andersen after college, and rose to the ranks to become our CEO, a global CEO who managed that whole transition from what was a 40,000 person company in the 90s to a 240,000 person company today. So as he went back and started working with people like the White House Council for Employment and other places like that, he saw an untapped talent pool in the US in the community colleges, and making sure that we could figure out how to reach into you guys, show you some perspectives of what we're seeing out in the global marketplace, and hopefully connect somewhere in areas that can get you excited about where you can go after you leave here. Okay. Go ahead. So we'll spend a little bit of time now talking about. So we talked about humanless resources, and maybe we'll each take a turn, and I'll have Richard come up here too, talking a little bit about what it is we do. What does a giant consulting company do? How do we do the kind of work we alluded to? Maybe, Fiona, you want to start?
Yeah, just right quickly, I'll give you a sense of what I'm working on at the moment. So one of the things that, for instance, I'm working on is we have a program where we offer people who are strong performers an opportunity to work overseas. So I think, someone was talking about how did I get to Paris. The reason I got to Paris actually was because my family all lives in France, and I really wanted, my kids were of an age 7 and 5 where I thought, well, hey, it's about time that they see the world, and I wanted them to learn French, and so I arranged to do a temporary transfer, and because Accenture is kind of a global company and I had a global role, so my role didn't matter where I was based. So I actually did a house swap. It was kind of cool with a French doctor who was doing research at Johns Hopkins. So we swapped houses, and that way it was kind of cheap for the company and fun for me, and I got to experience working in a different office. And let's just say that the French have a very hierarchical way of doing business, and it was a real eye-opener for me. So one of the things that I do is I kind of look at people's potential, and so we'll look at a particular group and we'll say, okay, here are all the people that are our strongest people maybe in the financial services who've got experience in banking and they know about how the banking processes work. Who are the real strongest performers, and let's see if we could send them to Japan, and that would be an interesting experience for them to work with to learn and share with our Japanese team, and then come back and kind of build those networks. So Ryan was saying that, although we're 240,000 people, you can always pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, can you give me a hand with this? And that's partly because we're very consciously placing people around. So that's one of the things that I do in human resources.
So you heard in my intro, I run an R&D, research and development team around cybersecurity. So a lot of my day-to-day interactions are around two things. One, helping set the agenda for where we're going to invest. Where do we spend the couple $1 million we spend every year in security research and development? What are the bets we're going to make? Doing analysis of the marketplace, trying to figure out where emerging needs are, where the current marketplace is, and trying to find the gaps that we as Accenture can take advantage of and innovate within. The other part of my job is spending time with my customers, clients in the federal government, clients in global multinational oil companies, clients at regional utility companies, trying to help them understand where we see the future going and where are they today to help them set that roadmap for going forward. I was out in Colorado Springs on Monday, and I was in Austin last Thursday, working with different teams on that same topic, trying to help them understand our vision of where the future is going and help them place their bets. So we spent a lot of time pouring through research reports. We spent a lot of time very analytically understanding things, and then we spent some time using our gut to try to figure out where that's going to go. And it's based on experience, but it's also based on kind of reading the tea leaves and kind of that entrepreneurial spirit of where's our company going to go and how do we get there. Mm-hmm. Richard, you want to just?
Sure, I'll be quick because we're at 10:40 now. Okay. So I'm developing one of the applications that, and I work under Ryan and his lab as well. And hopefully it's one of those that will go live. That was an awesome slide. At some point in the near future this year. My background is software engineering. I've got degrees in electrical engineering and also in neuroscience. So I started off as developing business applications, and then my last 7 years I did a lot of research. So what's great about the position that I'm in now, and I started in October, is that I actually get to use all of that. So I'll refrain, for the rest of the time, so you guys can ask questions a little bit later. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So let's whiz on to the next one. So let's have a bit more interactivity then. So if we think a little bit, so some of you had an idea, some of you not so much yet. For those of you that haven't started this exercise, it's a really good practice to, especially if you're someone that is not a natural planner. So my partner, Heidi, is the social secretary in the household. Everything's planned out. And I'm the one that says, oh, is there a party? Let's go to it kind of thing. So, some people are naturally go with the flow, and your career might end up a bit like that you try a little bit of this, and then, someone says, hey, I'm doing this. Would you want to come and work for me? And so it might be a little bit more fluid. And some people are much more thoughtful or just have, not so much thoughtful, but just have, the need to plan. You're probably all on that spectrum somewhere. So a great exercise to do if you haven't thought about it is just, okay, shut your eyes, everyone, for a minute, and just think. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, and what would you like to be doing day in, day out? What do you see yourself doing? Have you got
Any lightning flashes in the room?
any instincts?
Any sparks?
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, I want the company I started with my parents to have an office building, just grow and expand.
And what does that company do?
Marketing, communications.
So
you want to actually see a physical instantiation of that business in an office with a name on the door.
Yeah.
What do you see yourself actually doing?
What do I see myself actually doing? Just, I don't know, managing daily business activities and overseeing the company and, figuring out how to make things work.
Okay, so kind of combination of problem solving and managing. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Got any tasks that you see yourself doing?
What gets you out of bed in the morning? Go ahead.
I want to work in an office where I can walk around with either other teammates or possibly employees of mine if I'm in a manager position, talk about reports, talk about things that are happening later, and talk about how we can become more successful or what we can do to do well on whatever task is coming up next.
Okay. So interacting with other people.
Camaraderie, kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's too hard to spell.
How about anyone else? What kind of environment do you see yourself in? You have an idea? Yep.
See myself working or running a kitchen next couple of years, maybe 10 years. Whether it's my own or someone else's investment. I would like it to be someone else's investment.
Right.
how restaurants go.
Absolutely.
But and I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I see myself running
a kitchen, running a restaurant. So running the restaurant or running the kitchen?
I run a kitchen at a country club, and it's just during the summer, it's just 3 months. I work 65 hours a week.
Did you ever read, have you read Mario Batali's book, Heat?
No.
He has a great quote in there, something along the lines of, running a kitchen is the art of eking every piece of profit out of every single vegetable.
Yeah.
Whether it's the peels or the stems or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a great read, actually. You'd probably really enjoy it.
So there's a ton of skills that come in there to bring it all together at the right time, satisfy the client. Okay, so that's a nice clear image. Anything else?
It's obvious that we have students from other countries represented within this group. Do you envision being in your homeland in 10 years doing precisely what you want to do? If you do, raise your hand, please. Share with us.
I'm from other country. I'm not gonna come back. I want my sister to come here. She's a very talented person. She makes great clothes. And she's still in school, so my dream is to get her here, to make a family business.
In fashion?
Yes, I'm money motivated person. She's none of that. We're great.
So you're a great team.
Yes.
Okay.
And what country are you from?
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Cool. Okay, so that's a very clear image. Anyone else?
I have a friend from the Philippines, by the way, who is doing the same thing. She's in law school, and her sister's a clothing designer. And when she gets done with her law degree, she's going to be the COO. She's going to run the business, and her sister's going to be the creative engine that powers it.
It is a big part of trust.
Yeah.
Your family, you know the person.
So family business? I think you mentioned that too. I think that's a good thread. Yep.
Anyone else got any skills that they want to acquire?
Thanks.
Quiet over here, this side of the room. Come on.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Managing and more communication skills.
Using your communication skills, using your tune skills, writing or talking or a bit of both. Anyone see themselves in media? Anyone see themselves writing professionally? Maybe?
Marketing.
Marketing.
Advertising.
Advertising. Uh-huh. After I started this company with my parents, we kind of launched our own sort of media entity as a way of, getting out to our clients, and, that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone see themselves being back office? So, don't want to have to deal with all those ugly people. Really don't like people at all. Very happy doing. Because that's really good to know about yourself, actually. If you like doing something, but you don't have to want to be bothered with actually the messy stuff of dealing with people, that's a perfectly valid thing to know about yourself. Okay, let's move it on. But think about, who you're. Is it going to be you, or is it going to be a team sport?
I think we've drained this one.
Yeah, I think wrapping it up, basically, you do want to have passion about your subject area. Gain experiences to test yourself. So don't worry about, taking on a role, and if it really doesn't work out, big deal. Just be open. The worst thing that you can do is in a new role, you arrive on day one, you've got certain expectations of what you're going to be doing, and then you get asked to do some photocopying or do something which is pretty menial. It's happened to all of us, and it's kind of a rite of passage, and you just have to be flexible because you never know what is going to come along.
This is where you have to wag your finger. Take your studies seriously. But yeah, I think it goes back to this. I think you're looking for chain together a string of experiences and a string of successes that you're going to build throughout your whole life. That's the whole key about being a continuous learner, trying to figure out where you see opportunity and taking advantage of those opportunities wherever they're presented to you. Someone mentioned before one of the critical success factors was luck, and positioning yourself to take advantage of opportunity is all about luck. That's how you make your own luck.
I have to comment on that real quick. Yeah. I pull from classes that I took eons ago, and but the more you study and thoroughly understand your topics that you're working with, the better you'll be able to use it.
Richard's also done a great job of chaining together a lot of those successes and experiences over his career. So he's found a path over time that wasn't necessarily a straight path, including things like interest in politics, interest in neuroscience and biology. He's woven a way to get to where he is today, and I think this is probably just a stopping point along that way of more experiences and successes. So I think that's actually why I asked him to come join us today, so that in the Q&A you get a sense of some of those things he's chained together. Mm-hmm. Let's keep going. All right, so I think the notion that we're going to leave you with is that you've already started this path, so it doesn't actually start now. It started years ago. You're on your way. So we want to give you some thoughts and some fodder for how you can start to identify ways to intentionally put those experiences together, intentionally figure out how to play to your strengths, and figure out where those passions overlay with the demands of the marketplace to make sure you guys have opportunities to be successful too.
And there's a book that I would recommend called Now Discover Your Strengths, which is by Marcus Buckingham and Donald Clifton. I can write that down, or we can send it out in the notes afterwards. But it'll give you, $15 or probably $11 on Amazon, what have you. And it'll give you your top 5 strengths. It's an online test, which we have used extensively. It's a Gallup online test, and I thoroughly recommend it for giving you some very specific insights that you may not have heard before or seen before.
Well, I would like to thank both Fran and Ryan for their expertise in sharing so willingly with you.